Here's a clip of Elon Musk explaining why he still relentlessly works despite being worth $500 billion. Check this out.
Generally speaking, everything you do is for humanity. Why? Why are we working? Why do you care about the politics? Why do you care about multiplanetary species? Consciousness, you mentioned that, but do you ever get feel like that's maybe not the case or not true?
Well, I mean, there's certainly at times when I, have doubts about these things. I mean, I think it's a good question you ask, because it goes to at a foundational level, what is my philosophy, and why does it lead to this conclusion?
Yes.
So the reason is that when I was a teenager, I had an existential crisis to try to figure out what's the meaning of life. It doesn't seem to be any meaning. For me, at least, the religious texts, and I read all of them that I get my hands on, did not seem convincing. Then I started reading the philosophers. Be careful of reading German philosophers as a teenager. It's definitely not going to help with your depression. So reading Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, I'm like, ugh. Now, as an adult, it's much more manageable. But as a kid, you're like, whoa. So then I was like, man, I'm just struggling to find meaning in life here. And then I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and basically what Douglas Adams was saying is that we don't really know what the right questions are to ask. The question is not what's the meaning of life. In the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the Earth, it turns out, is a big computer, and its goal is to answer the question, what's the meaning of life? And Earth comes up with the answer 42. This is where the 42 number comes from.
Okay.
And 420 is just 10 times 42. Yeah. In that book, which is really sort of a book about, it's an existential philosophy book disguised as humor, they come to the conclusion that no, the real problem is trying to formulate the question, and to really have the right question, you need a much bigger computer than Earth. And so maybe one way of characterizing this would be to say the universe is the answer. What is the question? Or what are the questions? The more we can expand the scope and scale of consciousness, the better we can understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. The more we can expand consciousness, become a multi-planet species, ultimately a multicellular species, we have a chance of figuring out what the hell's going on. And so, this is why I think we should have more humans and more digital, both biological and digital consciousness, and why we should become a multi-planet species and a multicellular species, is so that we can understand the nature of the universe.
There are good billionaires and bad billionaires, and Elon is clearly one of the good ones, actually trying to move humanity forward. Elon was asked why he cares about politics, becoming a multiplanetary species, and expanding consciousness when he could just enjoy his wealth. Elon explains his entire philosophy stems from trying to figure out the meaning of life as a teenager. He talks about how becoming multiplanetary and multistellar gives humanity a better chance of understanding what's going on in the universe. Elon's focused on expanding both biological and digital consciousness. Most billionaires make their money and then spend the rest of their lives on yachts or buying sports teams. They cash out and disappear into luxury. That's the normal path for a lot of people when you have generational wealth. But Elon could have retired after PayPal and likely lived like a king forever. Instead, he's building electric cars to reduce emissions, he's making rockets to get humanity to Mars and reduce extinction risk, he's working on autonomous vehicles that will save lives by eliminating human error in driving. These aren't just business ventures, they are genuine attempts to solve humanity's biggest problems. You don't work on making human multiplanetary if you're just trying to get richer. You're already rich. You actually care about the species' survival long term. The guy tried to help the government become more efficient. He's spending his time and reputation on things that could easily fail, but would massively benefit everyone if they succeed. We are so lucky to have Elon Musk. When you have someone with that much wealth and influence choosing to use it on space exploration, sustainable energy, and advancing human consciousness, rather than just accumulating more zeros in their bank account, that matters. Those are the actions of someone who genuinely wants to drive humanity forward. There are plenty of billionaires out there. Very few of them are actually trying to make humanity a multiplanetary species or solve existential risks. Most are focused on making more money or enjoying what they have. Elon's different, and we should recognize that. But understanding why he's different requires understanding how he thinks about life itself. Elon's entire philosophy comes from realizing the meaning of life isn't about finding answers, it's about asking better questions. Elon describes having an existential crisis as a teenager, trying to figure out the meaning of life. Religious texts didn't convince him, and reading German philosophers as a teenager made his depression worse. Then he read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which argues that we don't know what the right questions are to ask. In the book, Earth is a computer designed to answer what's the meaning of life, and comes up with 42. But the real insight is that we need to formulate better questions, and to do that, we need to expand consciousness. Most people stop thinking about the meaning of life after college. They settle into a job, start a family, and accept whatever framework makes them comfortable. But Elon never stopped wrestling with that fundamental question, and the conclusion he came to is brilliant. The universe is the answer. We just don't know what the question to ask is yet. Think about how profound that shift is. Instead of searching for meaning, you're searching for the right questions. And to find better questions, you need more consciousness, more perspectives, more intelligence looking at the problem. That's why he cares about making humanity multiplanetary. That's why he cares about AI and expanding both biological and digital consciousness. It's all serving this deeper philosophical mission of helping humanity understand what the hell is going on. This isn't some shallow, change the world startup pitch. This is someone who genuinely wrestled with existential philosophy as a kid, came out the other side with a coherent worldview, and is now executing on it at massive scale. The 420 thing being 10 times 42 is hilarious, but it also shows he's been thinking about this stuff for decades. This philosophy has been guiding his decisions since he was a teenager. It's genuinely what he believes. And when you understand that framework, all his seemingly crazy projects make perfect sense. They're all pro-human. They're about expanding the scope and scale of consciousness so we can ask better questions about the universe. Electric cars, rockets, brain-computer interfaces, AI, they all fit into this bigger picture. It takes a genuinely unique individual to make generational wealth and then choose to keep grinding instead of just giving up. Elon was asked why he cares about all these massive problems when he's already made it. This is the part most people can't wrap their head around. When you have $1 billion, you can literally do anything you want. Private islands, super yachts, never working another day in your life, and that's what a lot of normal people would do. Most entrepreneurs who make their first fortune immediately start thinking of how to enjoy it. They buy fancy cars, huge houses, take endless vacations. That's the real reward for all that hard work, right? Cash out and live like royalty. But Elon made his money from PayPal, and instead of retiring at 30, he dumped everything into Tesla and SpaceX. Both companies almost went bankrupt multiple times. He could have lost everything. Most people will never take that risk once they're already wealthy. Then, after those companies succeeded, instead of finally relaxing, he starts more companies. Neuralink, the boring company, takes over Twitter and turns it into a political battlefield. These are massive headaches that he doesn't need to deal with. It would be so easy to just stop, to enjoy the fruits of his labor, to spend time with family and friends without the constant pressure and criticism. But he keeps going because his philosophy demands it. Expanding consciousness requires action, not retirement. That's incredibly rare. The drive to keep pushing after you've already won is not normal human behavior. Most people's motivation comes from necessity or desire for wealth and status. Once you have those, the motivation disappears. But when your motivation comes from a deep philosophical belief about humanity's purpose in the universe, wealth doesn't satisfy it. You keep going because the mission isn't finished. And the mission of making humanity multiplanetary and understanding the nature of the universe will never be finished in one lifetime. If you found this video of value, hit that subscribe button. Cheers.